The name Joyce is said to have Norman and Breton roots. The Normans were descendants of the Vikings, and the Norman conquest of England took place in 1066. The Bretons were Celtic people from Brittany, so French, who were allies to the Norman conquest. The Joyce family arrived in Ireland from Wales during the reign of Edward I. They arrived in what's known as modern-day Limerick around the mid-1200s. The family later moved west to Connaught, particularly to counties Galway and Mayo, where they established a powerful Gaelic clan. The Joyces were one of the tribes of Galway, and that was originally used as a name derisively by Oliver Cromwell and his forces, but the family embraced it as a badge of honor. Their wealth from trade helped them acquire land and influence in both urban Galway and rural Joyce country, North Galway and South Mayo. The Joyces held municipal offices in Galway, including mayors, sheriffs, and council members, helping govern the city from the 13th to the 19th century. The Joyces acquired large tracts of land in what became known as Joyce country, where they acted as local chieftains and landlord. Their motto, "Death before dishonor," reflected their pride and dignity. In short, the Joyces helped shape counties Mayo and Galway's unique blend of Norman and Gaelic heritage. Now comes the story of my Joyce clan. We have some facts through documentation, research and memories from my cousins, and perhaps a wee bit of the blarney thrown in. My cousin Mary Catherine found a document trail dating back to Edward Joyce from Westport in 1791. His son, Edward, was born in Westport in 1811 and married Nancy Quinn, and they had a son named Edward who was born in 1839. Research shows that Edward from 1839 was born in County Mayo and passed in 1895. He's buried at Aughaville Cemetery. He married Maria Rice, and they lived on Patrick Street. They had 9 children, including our grandfather, Joseph Edward Joyce. Joseph Edward Joyce was born in 1875 and passed away in 1944. His family was from Westport. Through documentation, we know that Joseph was a merchant, and Westport was a town that was famous for trade with Europe and also the textile business. I had heard a rumor that Joseph was in the textile business. Joseph married Catherine Gown from a nearby town. Catherine Joyce, née Gown, was born in 1894, making her a surprising 19 years younger than Joseph. Kate bore 6 children for Joseph in Westport between the years 1917 and 1923. Edward was the oldest, then came James, Joseph, Patrick, Michael, and Mary. Kate was born in Foxford, Ireland, which was 25 miles northeast of Westport. There was a rumor that several cousins, including myself, heard about Joseph abandoning Kate, but I'm very doubtful about that. First of all, no one knows for sure what was said between Kate and Joseph, and the children were way too young to understand or realize what was going on at that time. I think that this was a wives' tale because the children would never speak ill of their parents. What makes more sense to me, and this is just my theory, is that Edward and Kate discussed this and had a plan, and the timing had to be just right. My grandfather Joseph had 3 good reasons to come to America. In 1922, the Irish Free State was created, separating his part of Ireland from England, but that led to high unemployment and a loss of income. At the same time in America, it was the Roaring Twenties. My father Joseph told me that there were rumors in Ireland that the streets were paved in gold in America. In Chicago at that time, there was a huge surge in infrastructure. There was a flourishing jazz scene and a rise in organized crime. The third thing was that immigration laws in America were changing. They were no longer returning people to their home countries if they arrived in America. I'm guessing here, but I think that Joseph and Kate agreed that Joseph should try and make a go of it in America if it was safe for the whole family. According to my cousin Brian, Joseph brought his whole merchandise wagon to America. Brian told me that Joseph opened a speakeasy somewhere near where the Blues Brothers House of Blues would be today. At the time, Prohibition was in force, so it was illegal to sell alcohol, which says something about the Joyce respect for the police at that time. With Uncle Ed's description, Brian visited Ireland and found our ancestral home in Westport. It was a grand home with lots of land behind it. Very likely, this must have been sold to start a business in America and for Joseph to send for Kate and the kids.
There's one house there on the right that has possibilities as being yours, and it's that one right there, and I'm going to go up a little closer to it. But I don't think it doesn't quite fit what your description was, but we'll take a walk up there and see. Could this be it, Dad? Does this look familiar? Might be old enough. There's no sign hanging out front, as you can see. So maybe this is it. If it is, you'll be able to tell us all that. It's sort of like a barn here. Some cows. This is the back of it. I'm walking right alongside of it now. Gotta stay in the side because the road's real narrow. I don't want to get clipped by cars coming around the corner pretty quick. We'll still go down and look somewhere else, Dad, just in case this wasn't yours. Well, if that wasn't Dad's house up there, it's certainly in the neighborhood. And this is what the neighborhood looks like, I guess. There's a few new homes in the area, and there's some right across the street there.
As I understand it, at some point Joseph sent for Kate. Brave Kate had to close up the home, pack up 6 children and all their belongings, arrange fare and board the SS Harding, and set sail to America. A trip across the Atlantic in those days took anywhere from 7 to 10 days. My father described the trip as murderous, brutal, and pure hell. There was also a rumor that Uncle Pat caught scarlet fever on the way. Another important document is the SS Harding Manifest. Here you can see their names: Mother Kate, Edward, James, Joseph, Mary Teresa, Patrick, and Michael Joyce. My father's immigration card was dated on November 23, 1928. So this is the estimated arrival into America. Things may have been good for a year, but in November of 1929, the Depression hit and all the gold dried up. I'm guessing here, but I would imagine my grandfather lost his business. My father said that after the crash, all of the boys had to find work to survive. He and Jim sold newspapers, and they had one very famous customer, one Alphonse Capone. The 1930 census is another document that tells a story. If you look at family 134, my grandfather Joseph was the head of the family, and his wife was Catherine. They list him as English-Irish. Edward was 13 years old, from Ireland. James was 12, Joseph was 11, Patrick was 10, Michael was 9, and if you look below, Mary was 7 years old and also from Ireland. Joseph and Kate named their firstborn Edward. My cousin Mary Catherine's research may give us a clue as to why. Joseph had 3 generations of Edwards before him. His father, Edward Joyce, was born in 1839. His grandfather, Edward Joyce, was born in 1811. And his great-grandfather, Edward Joyce, was born also in Westport in 1791. And now we know that Joseph had an elder brother named Edward. Joseph must have felt duty-bound to name his first son Edward. Edward Joyce was born in Westport in 1917 and came to America at the age of 13. As a young man, Edward got a job at the Lakeshore Athletic Club. 2 good things happened there. First, he met the love of his life, Helen. Second, a man asked him once if he would like a better profession than an elevator operator, and he thought Edward would be good as a pipe fitter. Pipe fitters were good union jobs where Edward learned mechanical skills. During World War II, Ed enlisted into the Navy, and thanks to his mechanical prowess, they made him a Seabee. Ed and Helen got married and had 4 children: Brian, Lori, James, and Karen. Ed was very fond of boxing, golf, Bear football, and Notre Dame football, as well as the Cubs. My fondest memories of Ed was him taking me to my first Bear football game at Wrigley Field. My second fondest memory was our trip to Ireland in 1971. He and my father Joe both came alive being back home in Ireland. Ed was?
Ed was. And he wanted your father, he was going to teach him the trade because he would make much better money, and your father didn't want to do it, and he didn't.
Yeah.
So, but Ed had Dad in mind to help him, and Dad wouldn't do it.
How about James Joyce?
Well, Jim lived with us for a long time.
He did, yeah?
Yeah. And he used to love my cooking.
Yeah.
So every night he'd come in and I'd have a nice dinner ready. So then he met and married Ruth.
Yeah.
And he thought he was getting a cook. And instead that was a big mistake. It was not a good match.
Yeah. James Robert Joyce was born in 1918 in Westport, Ireland, and came to America at the tender age of 10 years old. He sold newspapers to the likes of Al Capone as a youth and went to St. Dominic Elementary School. He graduated from St. Dominic and went to Lane Tech. And after Lane Tech, he joined the Army. Jim fought in Germany in the infantry and was offered a sergeant's job for his efforts. After the war, he returned with a German Luger and a rifle from Germany. He met and married Ruth. Here's a picture of Jim and Ruth with my sister Joanne, and Jim must have thought, I have to have a little girl like Joanne, and he and Ruth had 1 child. That's my cousin Gail Joyce. Jim worked for the Northwestern Railroad Company for a long time before changing jobs and working for the W.F. Monroe Cigar Company. Jim was a fan of sports, football, Cubs, and boxing. He also enjoyed war movies and was an avid newspaper reader, which I think was a Joyce thing because my father read the newspaper every single day. My favorite memory of Jim was going to boxing matches with him and my father to see the Golden Gloves, and also family parties where he was always making jokes and making everybody feel great. Joseph Patrick Joyce was born in 1919 in Westport, Ireland, and came to America at the age of 9 years old. He said that all the boys needed to work for the family when they arrived. He met Veronica, known as Bonnie, at a transformer company where they both worked. He joined the Army in early 1945 and married Bonnie in August of 1945 before sailing off to Korea. He told me several stories about his time in Korea, and he really enjoyed the songs from World War II. He held many different jobs, and he and Bonnie had 3 children, Joanne, Michael, and Susan. His last 2 jobs were as a barber and as a taxi driver, and believe me, he was a better taxi driver than a barber. He enjoyed being a taxi driver as he was his own boss. Cigars, boxing, and horse racing were his passions, and he enjoyed reading the newspaper every day. He enjoyed his solitude, especially reading the racing form, but he could also be very social at family events.
That was one of the things that attracted me to him, was he knew how to dance. I thought, oh, all through my life with Joe, I'll be laughing and dancing. Oh, that was funny. I'm going to go all through my life laughing and dancing.
He was a funny man
He was a funny guy.
and a good dancer.
He sure was.
Patrick Joyce was born in 1920 in Westport, Ireland. My father said that he was a man who kept himself to himself, was always kind of quiet, and never married. He worked at the Sheraton Hotel downtown Chicago. He loved to go to the Cubs games and sit in the bleachers. He also loved Winnemac Park and getting sunshine there. My cousin Patty remembers going downtown to the Sheraton Hotel to see him, and he told her that she had some cousins she didn't know who went to the same school, Immaculata. And that's how Patty got to meet Mary Catherine and Debbie and John Joyce's family. Patrick was generous to many family members. Mary Catherine remembers him buying her a bicycle. Pat and John lived on Sealy off of Lawrence later in life. My fondest memory was when Pat took me to my first Cubs game.
He was very kind of shy guy.
Pat was.
Yeah. He never, and he loved the sun. He'd go to the ballpark and sit in the sun
Yeah.
too much.
He'd get red.
He got skin cancer.
Yeah.
And that's what did him in.
Everybody called him Red, right?
Yeah. Well, not only because of that, but his hair was reddish.
Yeah.
But
Where did he work?
he was
The Sheraton?
the Sheraton. He was a bellhop,
Downtown.
downtown. And he always had a pocket full of money.
Yeah.
I guess they gave him tips. He
Yeah.
stuck it all in his pocket, And
He loved Cubs, right?
Oh yeah. He loved the Cubs.
Michael Joyce was born in Westport, Ireland in 1921 and came to America at the tender age of 7 years old. We know he was a great salesman. He worked for a man named Jim Moran, the courtesy man, and sold my cousin Brian his first car, which was a 1961 Ford Starliner. He also worked for Montclair Pontiac as a car salesman and sold Brian a Catalina. He met and married a beauty queen named Janine. They had one child. His name was Jeffrey. My cousin Patty remembers that Mike looked out for the Rileys after his sister Mary died. He was generous with his time and his money, and he bought Patty a motorcycle bike. Unfortunately, Mike was also a chain smoker and passed away at a young age. I remember my father at the funeral saying that he had many, many friends, mostly from the bar where he would buy everybody drinks, but the only people that showed up were his family. Mike loved movies. I know because he took us to see It's a Mad, Mad, Mad World and the movie Psycho. And I had great memories about him doing that. My greatest memory of him was when he took his son Jeffrey, my cousin Joe, and I to New York to see the World's Fair in 1964. It was a very great time in our lives.
Well, Mike was a really good guy. He was very smart. He had a good gift of gab.
Yeah.
He used to sell cars for Jim Moran, the Jim Moran, the courtesy man.
Yeah.
And he did really good selling cars. It was very, in fact, Moran said to Mike, you're my partner, like you're that good.
Yeah.
But
He smoked too much, right?
yeah, he did. Yeah, that was cancer did him in.
Yeah.
Mary Teresa Riley was born in Westport, Ireland, and came to America at the age of 7 years old. Her parents passed away early in her life, and she quit school to go to work and take care of all the boys, in particular her brother John, who was the youngest. Mary worked at a company called Yeoman's as a typist. There she met Tom Riley, who was repairing pumps. They had 3 children, Catherine, Joseph, and Patricia. Patricia told me that she remembered her mother not looking right one day, and that night she went to Grant Hospital and died of an aneurysm. The next day, Uncle Mike and my father Joseph and Bonnie came, and the kids spent the day with Bonnie and Joe, and they went to the lake as their father Tom had to figure out what he was going to do next. So my fondest memories of Mary was when we were young, that Joe and Kitty and Joanne and I would always be out in outings together, parties and playgrounds, and Mary always made my mother smile, and she was such a sweet person. We all wish that we had more time with her.
Oh, Mary and I go way back.
Yeah.
I mean, we were good friends, not only relatives, but good friends. And she took on the responsibility of all the boys when their mother died.
She had a good sense of humor.
We could be walking down the street and whatever she said really got me laughing. One time I laughed so hard I had to sit down on the sidewalk so I wouldn't wet my pants. And until we meet again, you are my right hand and the rest of my family is the left hand, and you are the best. And I enjoyed my life with you, Mary. Lincoln Avenue across the street from the Viagraph Theater, and next door to the Crest, I think it was.
You had some fun days, huh?
We had real fun days. We didn't have much money, but we had a lot of fun.
Taking a deeper dive on the 1930 census takers certainly seem to have disrespected my Aunt Mary Teresa. Who was this Tom Joyce, who was born in Illinois and was only 6 months old, and why was he ahead of Mary? Thomas Miles Joyce was born in Chicago in September of 1929. This was a mere 11 months after his parents were reunited in Chicago. And this gives some hope that my theory was correct, that his parents decided to come to America together and continue raising children. Tom was 15 or 16 years old when his parents passed away. Not much is really known about Thomas. My fond memory of Thomas was at a football game where Uncle Ed took me to see the Bears, and it was freezing cold in Wrigley Field, and Tom pulled a flask out of his jacket and said, "Here, kid, drink this. It'll warm you up." It was my first taste of whiskey, and I was less than 10 years old. My cousin Gail remembers Thomas teasing her in an apartment. He said there were mice about. Tom was a loner, and Joe and I kind of remember that he wanted to be a cowboy and move out to Montana.
Young Tom,
Yeah.
there's really hardly anything to tell about him because he was a strange guy when he was young. He was very vain. He'd look in the mirror at himself and comb his hair and
Yeah.
just really was crazy about himself. But
Was he handsome? Not particularly?
not really. And he was short.
Yeah.
He was short and he was not very handsome. But the day that Mary died, he took off. Nobody ever heard from him again. In fact, I wondered what the heck happened to him.
Yeah.
He was strange, to begin with. But a few times I was looking to see if I could find him, and I stopped several young men that I thought could be him. It was never him, so I never knew what happened to Tom. He was cute.
John
He was-
Joyce?
He was good looking. He was good looking.
Yeah.
But it wasn't his fault.
Mary spoiled him.
the heck out of him. He didn't have to do anything he didn't want to do. And
He needed a stronger person to guide him, right?
Yes, definitely. And he
But
didn't.
I think, he loved all of his kids, I heard, and they seemed to love him very
They
much.
did. They did. It's amazing. The kids all adored him.
Yeah.
And he did nothing for them.
But he must have done something because they really loved him.
Yeah.
John Joyce was the youngest of the Joyce family. He was born in March of 1934, but he lost his parents before he was 10 years old. His sister Mary took the lead in charge of him after the parents died, but she also died early of an aneurysm. John graduated from St. Vincent de Paul Grammar School, DePaul Academy for high school, and attended Wrightwood College. He met Helen likely in the area around DePaul University. He played football at DePaul Academy. He was very athletic. He was in the Silver Skates of the Chicago Park District. He and Helen had 5 children: Mary Catherine, Deborah, Lynn, John, and Michelle. John held jobs as a roofer, and he also worked at Reed Medical Center. But he was ahead of his times as mostly a stay-at-home father. It was said he was a fighter, and he had the scars to prove it. Here you can see a pipe fitter's card from Uncle Ed that guaranteed bail for him if he happened to get arrested while fighting.
John loved Helen.
She was a wonderful addition to the family.
Yeah, Helen Joyce.
Yeah. She was a wonderful addition to the family.
She always seemed very, very sweet to me, very thoughtful and kind.
She was, and pretty on top of
Oh,
it.
beautiful.
Beautiful.
Just like her children. Mary Catherine, Lenny, Michelle, John, they're all very attractive people.
And think of all those kids. Holy smokes, you know.
Yeah,
That was a lot.
yeah.